It's a Wednesday, and you know what that means. It's time now for Supernatural News and Parashare. We still need your Parashare. We need to talk about that, you and I. I'm talking about you, the audience. We'll talk about that a little bit later. That's right. You're in the doghouse with me right now. I'm kidding. It's a Wednesday, so that means only one thing. It's time now for Supernatural News. And with that, Jess is out this week. She's bringing the kid back to college. And Mally will be back here momentarily as she's got kids that are returning back to school. It's a school thing. Why does school start now in August? I'll ask that of our co-host this week, Travis Thorpe. Let's welcome Travis in. Hi, Travis. How you doing?
How are you, Timmy? Excited to be back yet again.
Excited to have you, brother. Appreciate you. Tell people again about your show and where they can find you.
The American Council for Truth in Journalism. You can find us on Thursday nights at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are a live broadcast on X, Facebook, Rumble, and OpsLens. We are the most irreverent political and just pop culture news show out there with a wide council of anywhere from 5 to sometimes 8 people with all sorts of different backgrounds, all sorts of different opinions, political backgrounds, and we don't care about anybody's feelings. And so, you know, if you want to come and just laugh or get angry, that's the show for you. There you go.
There you go. Although on this show, we try to not get people angry. It's a good thing if you want to go and explore that situation. You can go over there and do that. So there you go. We just try to get you angry in other ways over here. Although I have people sometimes who get angry with me for the weirdest reasons. So that's fine. I don't care. Today's show, we're getting supernaturally angry. Is that okay?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, sure. Why not? No, we're not going to get angry supernaturally. We got some interesting stories today, Trav. Here's the deal. NASA thinks that life could survive on Jupiter and Saturn's icy moons. I think Minnesota's cold enough. We don't need to go to any moons, but we'll talk about that today. We've got an interesting discovery about Stonehenge we'll talk about today. That came up. Of course, we've got AI news. There's always AI news. Ghost stories. There's a few ghost stories to talk about today. And the mystery of a World War I soldier's identity has been solved. We'll talk about that today as well. And we end the program with a story from one of our listeners that might be a little disturbing. We'll talk about that as well.
Sounds like an exciting episode.
It is an exciting episode. So we'll jump right into it today and start off with that story about why NASA wants to move us to a place colder than Minnesota. I have no idea why, but they do. NASA's decided that they think life could survive on Jupiter and Saturn's icy moons. When it comes to searching for places beyond Earth where life could potentially survive, scientists don't only look at planets, they also consider other bodies such as moons, which are also theoretically capable of supporting habitable environments. In fact, when looking at other locations within the solar system where life could thrive, two of the most promising locations are Jupiter's moon, Europa, and Saturn's moon, Enceladus. However, both of these moons are far away from the sun, so they are very cold, which I know a lot of people who are freeze babies are not going to like this option whatsoever. They're both far too cold for liquid water to exist on their surfaces. As far as we know, liquid water is essential for almost all forms of life. So why are they considered promising? It's because they both have thick, icy crusts that are miles deep, but beneath these crusts, they are thought to have liquid water oceans. Scientists have long wondered whether life could survive in these subsurface oceans, and new research from NASA published in 2024 shows that there are promising signs for habitability, easy for me to say, in both of these locations. The research published by the journal Astrobiology looks at chemicals called organic molecules. These molecules, such as amino acids and nucleic acids, aren't direct evidence of life, but they are the building blocks which are required for life as we know it to form. Searching for these organic molecules is an important step in determining if life could ever exist in a distant location such as these two moons. So with that, Travis, I got to ask you, an icy moon sound good to you?
It does, and see, I've heard these rumors before a handful of years ago. Mm-hmm. And, Europa was one of those that I did hear. Now, one of the moons that I did not hear in this story that has circulated in some of those rumor mills is Titan.
Okay.
Titan was one of the other ones they were looking at. Now, it's interesting because some of our foreign adversaries, you could say, or near peers, they've been looking at a lot of things on the moon and Mars. But NASA has been looking further than that. And I think it has a lot less to do with, making habitation on those moons as more so as a launching pad out of our solar system.
Okay.
I think they're looking for planting a flag as far out there as they can, almost like setting up way stations, along that long distant highway. So I'm actually excited for this. I think that this is that first big public open step towards, hey, we want to start doing some deep space exploration and start moving in the direction of like Star Trek, which makes me pretty excited.
Really? See, I anything that doesn't have that isn't a Goldilocks planet to me seems like I don't know if I want to step foot on it. I mean, the potential for things to go wrong for me is always great. So
yeah, but you won't have people trying to steal your catalytic converter on Titan.
That's true. Yes, no one's stealing the catalytic converter, but at the same time, I've been known to have a streak of bad luck. So for the minute they go to activate the artificial atmosphere, in my luck, the artificial atmosphere would break down and we all wouldn't have anything to breathe.
Well, just make sure you're on the ship next to me.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah. I just don't see things going well. That's no offense to Elon Musk, it's just with the privatization of space and everything, it seems like to me, it seems like one out of every 4 rockets ends up blowing up. So it's
I mean, better odds than I have. I haven't built 0 rockets so far.
Right. So with the whole, what's a good way of putting this? You got a 25% chance you're going to burn up. I don't know that I want to go all that way and go, well, I'm the 25%. I don't know that I'm willing to take that chance.
Yet we take our chances in aircraft right now.
No, I know.
The same percentile.
Yeah.
Aren't you flying out soon?
Yeah, I gotta. But I take my St. Christopher medal and
Woosah.
That's right. Serenity now. So there's that. So yeah. Do what
Jinx,
you can.
we both drink at the same time.
That's right. Speaking of things I can prey on, how about a little story about the Holy Grail? I'm going to go off topic here. Normally we go aliens and stuff like that in the first part of the program. But there's a story that caught my eye here about the Holy Grail. They say that they've got the Holy Grail. So who's right? That's what the headline is here. Wherever you go, the experience is usually the same. You enter a church, the cathedral, or an ecclesiastical hush descends. You admire the architecture, the artworks, the centuries of history and of faith that have stood the test of time, and then you enter a special chapel or museum where the holiest of items reside. Behind the glass case stands the stuff of legend, which is supposedly the Holy Grail. Or is it? What makes the cup the Holy Grail, but not another? In Europe alone, there are said to be around 200 cups, each thought to be the Holy Grail, the cup used by Jesus Christ at the Last Supper. Believers flock to see them or pray over them, but which is the real Grail, and does it even exist? One thing's for certain, the Holy Grail is embedded deep in our collective imagination. The idea of a quest is a constant theme in literature, art, movies, where we routinely refer to what would be our ultimate goals, but usually lie tantalizingly out of sight as the Holy Grail. Major medical breakthroughs as often called the Holy Grail for the disease in question. It's part of pop culture too. Dan Brown made millions off of his interpretation of the Holy Grail in the Da Vinci Code, in which he posited that the Grail was not in fact an object, but a secret that Jesus Christ had fathered children with Mary Magdalene. And who can forget that Harrison Ford reached out for the cup of a carpenter in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Even stories that have nothing to do with Christianity are often centered around quests from Harry Potter to Lord of the Rings. If you strip away those modern connotations, though, we are left with a simple explanation. The Holy Grail is supposedly the cup used by Jesus at the Last Supper. The goblet that Christ drank from before his arrest, sentencing, and crucifixion would, of course, be of interest to Christians around the world. And the fact that over the centuries, legends have arisen of grails producing miracles has only added to the enthusiasm. There's just one problem, says Joanne Pierce, who's professor of religious studies at the College of the Holy Cross in Massachusetts. She says, I honestly do not think that the actual cup from the Last Supper still exists. Jesus certainly used a cup at the Last Supper, but if you look at some of the gospel accounts, the room was already prepared by someone else before they arrived, so it may not have been his cup. For Pierce, a Catholic, the idea of the Holy Grail is more symbolic than realistic, in her words, a cultural reality rather than a religious reality. But for many people, the Grail is a real object and one that it's possible to see if you go to Valencia or Leon or Genoa or any of the many places where tradition says the Grail resides. You might even be able to feel the mystical power of the Grail if you visit one of the many places it is said to be hiding just out of sight, up the mountain of Montserrat or outside Barcelona, for example, or in the Polish countryside where the shadowy Knights Templar may have hidden it, or around Glastonbury, Torre, or the mysterious hill in southern England where medieval legend declared Joseph of Arimathea brought the Grail shortly after Jesus' death. At Valencia in eastern Spain, enter the cathedral, and to the right is a chapel built expressly to house the Santo Calice, or Holy Chalice. Tradition reveals that it is the same cup that the Lord used at the Last Supper for the institution of the Eucharist, says the cathedral website about the Holy Chalice of the Lord's Supper. They believe that St. Peter took it to Rome from where it was sent to Spain in 3rd century CE. Valencia's tourist board website also describes the cup as the Holy Chalice used by Jesus Christ at the Last Supper, announcing that you have the Holy Grail is, of course, a tourism draw. It has been since a medieval period when Europeans taking part in the Crusades would bring back relics from Jerusalem. In fact, relics have been central to Christianity since the start, says Pierce. When early Christians were martyred, other believers would pray at the graves. The martyr acted as a patron or intercessory for their prayers to be lifted up to heaven, a practice taken from ancient Rome where the patronage system was an important part of society. That idea of saints intensifying prayer or flagging it to the right place persists in Christianity today. But it wasn't just the graves of martyrs that became holy. It was anything to do with their body or things that they had touched. Objects they might have handled were considered to have that same grace, a connection with the holy, says Pierce. Of course, the cup held by Jesus, with which he showed the disciples how to perform the Eucharist on the table as he announced that he was soon to be betrayed, would be the holiest of holy objects. Little wonder that so much effort has gone into finding the Grail. During the time of the Crusades, interest in Jesus' life on earth increased, says Pierce. People were going back and forth between Europe and the Holy Land looking for artifacts that could have been related. That's why most of the supposed Holy Grails around Europe first arrived on the continent during those centuries. It's similar to the interest in the paranormal we have now, says Matthew Schmaltz, founding editor of the Journal of Global Catholicism and professor of religious studies at the Holy Cross. In the Middle Ages, it reached a public consciousness that it didn't have before. But over the centuries, collecting relics hasn't purely been about getting closer to God, says Schmaltz. There were various economic interests related to pilgrimage. Relics were taken away from tombs and widely dispersed. You have a variety of places becoming pilgrimage sites, which was a very lucrative business for those who had the relics. Religious tourists would make pilgrimages to those places, boosting the local economy as they did so. Relics were also political in the time of the Crusades. Finding items like the lance that pierced the side of Christ was considered affirmation of the divine mission to liberate the Holy Land, said Schmaltz. That's one of the reasons that some of the relics are so numerous that they couldn't possibly be true, is what he goes on to say. You could construct a city with the wood that's claimed to be the true cross, he says. The Holy Grail may have started out as a sacred relic for Christians, but over the centuries, it has also come to have relevance to others. For starters, it has been linked to the legendary King Arthur since the medieval period, thanks to chivalric poetry, says Pierce. A 9th century French poem posited that Joseph of Arimathea had caught the blood of the Christ and the Grail during the crucifixion and had later taken it to Glastonbury in now what's England. This was conflated with Celtic, Irish, Welsh, and pre-Christian narratives about objects imbued with power, she says. A graal or grail in English originally referred to a deep dish, serving platter, or even a cauldron belonging to early British kings, according to ancient myth. In the 12th century, I believe it is Chrétien de Troyes' poem, Percival, the Story of the Grail, is a romp including King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table, a chivalrous quest, a bloody lance, and a glittering grail, a serving dish with magical healing powers. By the 15th century, Percival had become Galahad, the son of Arthurian knight Lancelot, who goes on a quest for the Grail, finds it, and chooses to die on the way back after a heavenly mission. Galahad, by the way, was able to heal the sick and perform miracles. And it says in the article here, sound familiar. There's a little bit more to the article saying that about how one woman found the Holy Grail. I tell you what, I'm going to post the article for time's sake in the description of this program, and you can read the rest and continue on. But it's kind of an interesting little article about the Holy Grail.
Yeah, I was sitting there, I'd say, kind of pulling at myself on different things to respond to this. Mm-hmm. In one regard, I agree with a lot of what she was saying in there, right? That it could be a lot more symbolic, right? Now, one of our good friends, and somebody you've had on the show before as well, Timothy Hogan, mm-hmm. is probably one of the most prolific authors on Templar lore, and I've sat through, I think, 2 lectures that he's given on the Grail, mm-hmm. and I'm not going to reveal any of those things because they were done in a secret setting, okay. You know. But what I will say is that there is a lot of Gnostic beliefs that the Grail is not necessarily symbolic, but symbolic in the means of, like, it's not an actual cup. Right. Okay. But it's not symbolic in the means of, like, it is something tangible. Okay. And they believe it's a lot more internal workings, internal machinations, working on one's true self and recognizing the divinity within oneself. That it's not just a holy bloodline of Jesus, but it's like we're all the children of God type thing. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. I would really encourage people to start looking at some of Timothy Hogan's work on this. There's some very enlightening things there. But the reason I would say that none of them have the Holy Grail is because there's not a Frenchman atop of a castle going, "Your mother was a hamster and your father smelt of elderberries." Yeah.
How does that go again? No, I'm kidding.
I loved Monty Python and the Quest for the Holy Grail. I lived for that in high school.
Yeah. I just like the impression.
You silly English niggets.
Good one. Good one. I suppose with that we can move on. Huh? We'll move on to the alien stuff. I guess we're in the alien portion of the program, but yeah. But we'll move on to something more familiar, and we'll talk about aliens. A video captures an airline pilot's encounter with a UFO during a flight. The footage shows unexplained lights moving in the night sky through the side window of the cockpit. The incident, which was filmed from the cockpit of a Boeing 747 during a routine flight from Saudi Arabia to Nigeria, left both pilots of the airliner scratching their heads. It had been only around 30 minutes since the plane had taken off when they noticed a strange, extremely bright object moving around freely in the night sky outside the plane. This is my experience of seeing something strange or UFO, said Captain Ruud van Pangermenen. There you go. Who uploaded the footage to his YouTube channel. What we see is still a mystery. Before that, we thought it was a light plane, but it wasn't on our radar. We thought maybe it was a star, but the stars didn't move. The UFO light shone for a long time and moved. Unfortunately, the light continued without incident, but their encounter still remains unexplained. The video is attached as well to the article. I'll tell you what, I'll post this one as well in the description of this program so you can watch the entire video and see the UFO for yourself, and you can judge. You can tell us whether it's a UFO or not.
Yeah.
So there you go. There you go.
Yeah, it's interesting because like there is a small percentage of those videos that I really do agree, like it's hard to explain. And then there's a lot of them that are pretty easy to explain and debunk, but people are just absolutely convinced that it's whatever they want it to be. Right. Yeah. An example today in a group chat that I have with some alphabet soup guys, there was these videos going around of like these UFOs popping up over California. Mm-hmm. And I was like, wow, I come across an almost identical scenario happening in Honolulu at the same time, same day, which turned out to be a bunch of laser light show drones creating a pattern saying aloha and a big heart. But it was that same pattern, same, chances are, we got to take a breath sometimes and make sure we're not getting blue beamed here. Yeah.
Yeah. That's difficult. That really is difficult. Okay. So I had mentioned Stonehenge earlier, and there's a new discovery that deepens the puzzle over the origins of the monument. Now, they're the circle of stones that have left historians scratching their heads for centuries, and now experts are making a stunning discovery about one of Stonehenge's most famous rocks. It's been known for a while that most of the monument's world-renowned blue stones were sourced from the Preseli Hills in Wales, around 150 miles from the site in Wiltshire. But new analysis has revealed that the altar stone, the largest blue stone at the center of Stonehenge, actually came from northern Scotland, which is 621 miles away.
Wild.
Yeah. If that isn't something, I don't know what is. Let's see here. It brought up a slideshow here, so I'm just going to exit out of that.
Yeah, I don't have a wig to put on to just go aliens.
Right. Experts have no idea why the 6-ton, 5-meter-long stone was selected or how it was transported such a long distance around 5,000 years ago. But like Travis said, aliens. The discovery was made when a team led by researchers from Curtin University in Perth analyzed the age and chemistry of minerals from fragments of the altar stone. They found a remarkable similarity with the old red sandstone of the Orcadian Basin in northeast Scotland. The team said they can conclude with 95% accuracy that the stone came from this area, which encompasses parts of Inverness, Thurso, Orkney, and parts of Shetland. The fingerprint of the mineral grains within the sandstone are completely different to well-sourced stones. The findings are truly remarkable. They overturned what has been thought for the past century. Co-author Professor Richard Bevins from, boy, I can't say the name of that university. It's Welsh. I'm not even going to try because I'm going to miss that layup from a mile away.
Probably like,
yeah, exactly. Right. We have succeeded in working out, if you like, the age and chemical fingerprints, if perhaps one of the most famous stones in the world-renowned ancient monument. It's thrilling to know that our chemical analysis and dating work has finally unlocked this great mystery. We can now say that this iconic rock is Scottish and not Welsh. Interesting. While the research published in the journal Nature does not provide direct evidence about how the altar stone got to its location in Salisbury Plain, the revelation it traveled so far has raised questions about its journey given the limits of human technology during Neolithic times. Professor Nick Pierce, also from that university I can't pronounce, said this stone has traveled an awful long way, at least 700 kilometers. And this is the longest recorded journey for any stone used in a monument at that period. The distance traveled is astonishing for that time. While the purpose of our new empirical research was not to answer the question of how it got there, there are obvious physical barriers to transporting it by land, but a daunting journey if going by sea. There's no doubt that this Scottish source shows a high level of societal organization in the British Isles during the period. Construction at Stonehenge began 5,000 years ago with changes and additions over the next 2 millennia. The researcher said the altar stone was most likely extracted from the Orcadian Basin using stone wedges and hammerstones to exploit natural joints within the rock. Although it's unclear when the altar stone arrived in Stonehenge, it may have been placed within the world-renowned center horseshoe of stones during the second construction phase at around 2620 to 2480 BC.
Wow.
Yeah. Lead author.
I'm sitting here trying to play it out in my head. Like, did they use woolly mammoths? You know, was there dinosaurs? Did they use dragons? Was it magic? Was it aliens? Or are we overanalyzing this? And like, maybe it was just like a tectonic shift and it landed there as everything spread apart. And we're just trying to explain what was just nature.
I'm sure there's a really easy solution to all of this. Lead author Anthony Clark from Curtin University said, given its Scottish origins, the findings raise fascinating questions considering the technological constraints of the Neolithic era as to how much a massive stone was transported over vast distances around 2600 BC. Previous studies indicate the larger upstanding sarsen stones, which make up the outer circle of Stonehenge, were sourced from the edge of the Marlborough Downs, which are around 15 miles north of the site. The research also involved scientists from University College London and the University of Adelaide. The team said their next step will be further pinpointing the origin of the stone within the Orcadian Basin. Stonehenge is one of the more prominent prehistoric monuments in Britain. The Stonehenge that can be seen today is the final stage that was completed around 3,500 years ago. According to the monument's website, Stonehenge was built in 4 stages. And we don't necessarily need to go through that in the 4 stages, but interesting that altar stone is Scottish.
Yeah, it does perplex me, and sometimes, we really do need to analyze things with Occam's razor, where it's like the simplest answer might be, right? It could be that there is a lost technology. It could be that they figured out how to make it float. It could be that there was a tectonic shift and it was there. And they were like, oh, hey, let's use this because it's different than everything else. So it must be holy. Let's turn it into an altar. There's 1,000 different reasons it could be, but who cares? It's neat. It's cool.
Yeah. It's there now. Yeah.
And we have the technology to do it now too, right? We have cranes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, sometimes why question why?
Yeah. It's cool.
Yeah.
Ah, man, I'd feel like a fraud if I spent like hundreds of thousands of dollars going to a university trying to figure out what a caveman did 3,000 years ago.
Well, it's not like they were capable of keeping records then either. So, I mean, you can't, unless we discover time travel, you can't go back and actually witness it. So,
oh, if we do, I'd save myself from so many mistakes.
Right. That's assuming you can. It's active time travel, not passive.
Yeah. Well, let's just go to the future.
That was an interesting. I don't know if you heard the conversation with Dr. Charles Liu, but he doesn't believe that time travel would allow us to be active. If there was time travel, you wouldn't be able to actively participate. It'd be like watching a movie.
I would agree with that, because otherwise we would have probably at some point theoretically had interaction already, right?
Yeah.
Because at any given point they would just pop in.
Yeah.
We don't have to wait for 3,000 years in the future for somebody to go back in time to go talk to us now, because they would have done it.
Yeah.
Or have they? What if every crazy guy in the hospital saying he's a time traveler really is a time traveler, Tim?
The ones who end up on TikTok are almost always wrong, Trav. That's the thing. The ones who come.
But maybe they were right from their timeline. But by them coming in, there was a butterfly effect and it screwed everything up.
Screwed everything up. Yeah. Yeah. Because everyone I've seen has been so far off. I mean, yeah. I don't know.
They came back to fix things, Tim.
And they did.
And just them being there.
They did. They fixed the timeline. You were successful, little time traveler. Congratulations.
Aren't you, Tim?
What's that?
I said, you're a time traveler, aren't you?
Yes. I'm here to save everybody. And I did. I saved my world. Me and my little chipmunk army. We saved our world.
How would you think that they would have gotten a rock that big, 700 kilometers, and on top of pretty large elevation too, isn't it?
Is there any water or rivers between Scotland and England?
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Barges. Yeah. You're welcome.
I hope for dragons.
Dragons are fun too. You just strap it to a dragon's back and fly it there. Yeah.
I mean, why not?
Train dragons.
Oh.
If I can train a chipmunk with peanuts, they could train a dragon to fly up.
Yeah. I mean, why else was it part of all their iconography, right? And their heraldry, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's gotta happen. I mean, with that, let's take our break. When we come back, we'll talk about how British Army chiefs are sniffing out enemies with AI-powered robo-dogs. Of course, it's our Nightmare Fuel segment. That'll happen. We've got ghost stories galore, and including an alleged ghost sitting on a bus in Delhi, India. We'll talk about that. We've got the story of an unsolvable mystery of a World War I soldier's identity that's been solved. We'll talk about that as well. And the final story today, sent in by a listener, that is the ultimate revenge story.
Ooh.
Yes. It involves nature.
Exciting.
Yeah. Yeah. The ultimate revenge nature story. We'll end with that today. So there you go. That's our action-packed story, action-packed supernatural news for today. We do need your Parashare story, folks. Send in your Parashare stories. You can do it one of three ways. You can email me, tim@darknessradio.com. I'll read them here on the air. Either that, or you can go to our website, darknessradioshow.com. There's a blue button on the right-hand side. You can leave your voice note. You have 2 minutes to do so. If you need more than 2 minutes, you can click that blue button again and continue your story. I'll stitch your stories together and air them here on the program. We can hear your lovely voice. Or the third way, if you have a studio just like the ones Travis and I are sitting in right here, produce a Theater of the Mind segment. Send it in to me. I'll screen it. And if it's suitable, I will air it here on the program. You could put in your own sound effects, your own music. And we'll air the segment right here on the program. So there you go. But send us your Parashare experiences, your experiences with the paranormal, and we will air it here on the program. So we'd love to hear you, love to hear your voice, love to hear from you. So by all means, do so. By the way, the deadline for that is by Tuesday. Send it in by Tuesday at noon. And
Isn't that how we met?
Parashare, yeah. You had a Parashare story. Yeah.
I feel like it was well over a decade ago, and I had called in.
Yeah.
And later on in life, we met up again in a different social circle, and you recalled that moment.
I did.
And we've been very close friends since then.
Yeah. Yeah. As a matter of fact, your Parashare story had to do with your service, if I remember right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I don't even remember the story anymore, but yes.
I think it had to do with shadow people, if I remember right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a shadow person story.
It might have been, I think I remember what it was. It was at the PD and catching EVPs on a recorder during an interview from an armed robbery. Yep, I remember now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Wow.
Yeah.
So share your stories, guys.
There you go.
See? The beautiful friendships.
Yep. There you go. There you go. So we'll take a break. When we come back, all that and much, much more. Travis Thorpe is our special co-host today on Supernatural News. We'll be right back on Darkness Radio. Welcome back to the best in paranormal podcasting. This is Darkness Radio on a Supernatural News and Parashare Wednesday. I'm Tim Dennis. Right over there is co-host Travis Thorpe. Travis.
Howdy, everybody.
It was a beautiful day out today. Beautiful weather out. The chipmunks were out. I was throwing them peanuts. You got to see the chipmunks earlier today.
I did.
Yeah. Yeah.
You promised me Chip and Dale, but they were not dancers.
No, they were not dancers. No. You got to see the chippers today. By the way, they took to you pretty quick.
Yeah, I felt like a Disney princess. It was a little wild, And now it's kind of cool to be a Disney princess thanks to Deadpool. So I mean, I'm cool with it.
Yeah.
But it was a pretty cool experience. Yeah.
Yeah, they're pretty friendly, weren't they?
They were.
Yeah, they took to Travis quite quickly. They kind of were running around his heels, and I think one of them looked up at you, kind of like, "Hey, you got a peanut?" They're quite needy. Yeah.
And I just looked back down like, no, all I got is nicotine.
Yeah. You try to give them a cigarette, and they didn't know what to do with it. They thought, I can't eat that. It's smoking. I haven't introduced them on how to fire up the butt and smoke yet. That's probably next month.
Just graduated them to celery already.
Yeah, I just got them on the meth. So yeah, boy, a chipmunk on meth, that would be something, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But a happy chipmunk on meth, that'd be fun, wouldn't it? That'd be a happy thing, wouldn't it? Is it?
Oh. I feel like this is the creation of like a villain story already. Like,
yeah. The AI theme has started. That means it's time for us to get to our AI stories. I don't like the AI theme. The Terminator theme. You can't hear it, but I know in the background, but it's playing. Which means we need to get to our Robo-Dog story. Robo-Dogs. Do you aspire to own a Robo-Dog?
I mean, it might be cool. I mean, if you could post it Sentry to basically patrol the outer cordon of your home, and it doesn't poop that you have to step in when you mow the lawn. I mean, that'd be kind of cool. I mean, don't get it twisted. I love my husky and I love my pit bull, but Robo-Dogs don't poop.
They'd probably shoot at my chipmunks. British Army chiefs evidently are sniffing out enemies with attacking AI-powered robo-dogs. That's according to an Army source. They say the move allows handlers to carry out training in a virtual environment and rehearse tactics and decision-making under pressure, adding its use along with real-life training. As I hiccup. Robo-dogs are being used by British Army chiefs to help sniff out enemies. The artificial intelligence-powered pooches can detect bombs, attack targets, and become agitated and run away. Is that a good thing?
I suppose, yeah, because I mean, if it's going to run into an impossible situation, it'd be captured, and then the enemy combatants would, reverse engineer it and then develop the same kind of technology. So you'd want it to get away.
Oh, okay. Troops are being trained using the virtual reality system, which involves an angry mob in a Wiltshire village throwing rocks and petrol bombs towards soldiers during a riot. Military canines are then unleashed to bite the yobs and force them to the ground so they can be arrested. I'm reading a British article in case you can't tell. Defense tech firm Elbit, which is behind the training, said AI dogs don't always respond how you want them to, which is what happens in a normal environment. The simulation can replicate any scenario the dogs could come up against. It is part of the Army's drive to try new tech to keep up with rival nations. The virtual reality military dogs also react to the changing weather. In scorching conditions, the mutts become more tired and need to rest in nearby shelter. In bone-chilling temperatures, they may need a jacket to stay warm. The virtual simulation system, which can be used anywhere, was tested by soldiers in the first military military working dog regiment last month for public order training. An Army source said the move allowed handlers to carry out training in a virtual environment to rehearse tactics and decision-making under pressure. The insider added it is used along with real-life training, but did not replace it. The Army has more than 150 real pooches with Labradors and Spaniels used in search roles. German Shepherds and Belgian Malinois are used in patrols. So why do we need the robot doggies?
I'd imagine that eventually the cost would be less at a certain point, right? Now you might think like, wow, it's probably going to cost like $60,000 or out there probably 90,000 pounds, right? To create a dog like that. Okay, yeah, makes sense, but it's also probably going to last for about 30 years, right? Yeah. Where a military dog is going to cost you run of the mill about $25,000 just for that pup. Right. Sure. Not including any of its training that's going to be required for about 5 years of its life before it goes into service, let alone the training of the service member and yada, yada. You end up almost at the same price point with a dog that you're only going to get 5 years out of at max. Right.
True.
So at a certain point, it might actually be more cost effective for the robot dogs where, the live dogs, it's pretty spendy.
Yeah, it can be. I get what you're saying. But the real live dogs are more cute. Just saying.
That is true. That is, I will agree. But they also fart on you a lot. And they have really nasty farts, Tim. They're not like your chipmunks.
But they have real heads. I mean, the real dogs have real heads. You ever seen the robot dog?
My pity could clear a room. Easily. He's a weapon of destruction.
He's a weapon of fart destruction.
Yeah.
Yeah. A weapon of gas destruction.
Yeah. A couple of months ago, there was an article about a bunch of Marines that were up against an AI dog as well, or some kind of AI bot. That they were testing out if this robot could identify the Marines and pick them out and identify the threats and all this. And the Marines, being the children that they are, fooled this super advanced piece of technology instantly by just not acting human. Because like the robot went with them for like 3 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, doing all these training ops and learning human behavior and identifying threats and all sorts of things. And then they're like, okay, now we're going to turn it on the Marines. So then the Marines started doing cartwheels towards the robot, and it wouldn't register that it was a person. So it never picked it up and identified a threat. And then another one did the old Metal Gear Solid where it did a cardboard box and hid in the cardboard box and would just pick up and wiggle his feet and then sit down.
Oh my God.
Grabbed a bunch of branches and made a tree in front of him while he just walked towards it. I mean, for the hundreds of millions of dollars that they end up putting into a program like this, and the childish antics of a bunch of 19-year-old Marines completely blow it through the water. Tim, you ain't got anything to worry about.
I guess not, huh? Yeah. No. Genius. Right? I guess we're safe.
Yeah. Just dress up in a trash bag. They won't recognize.
Right. Yeah. Throw a tarp over my head. I'll be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Meanwhile, a model posts a beautiful snap on the beach, but not everything is as it seems. The AI revolution is here, brother, and we're all gonna hate it.
Did she have 5 fingers?
I think so, yeah. Mila Sofia attracted thousands of positive comments when she posted a glamorous bikini picture online, but many are unaware that she's hiding a big secret. What's that big secret? Well, it's getting increasingly difficult to know what's real or fake on social media. There's been a rise in deepfakes, artificial intelligence, and misinformation in recent years, so it comes as no surprise that people are struggling to interpret the posts that they see online. This is even the case when pages are being transparent about how they're being run. Emilia Sophia is an AI model and influencer whose creator makes this clear in their Instagram bio. The description reads, 24-year-old virtual girl living in Helsinki. I am an AI creation, but despite being honest, people are still mistaking Emilia for a real model. The virtual model boasts more than 164,000 fans on Instagram alone. 164,000 people being fishhooked.
Wow.
And scores of her followers leave comments for her, seemingly believing she's a real person. When the creator posted a bikini picture on Instagram recently, there were plenty gushing responses. Fans calling Mila beautiful, sexy, adorable, and so nice. Some even attempted to engage in conversation with her, with one writing hello and another asking, how are you? By the way, let me show you a picture of Mila. This is Mila right here.
I think I need to get my allegedly glasses out. Allegedly, I may have left a comment on it as well, saying send Bob's and Vajij.
I mean, she looks real enough, right?
Yeah.
While this concept may be scary to some, it's showing no signs of slowing down, obviously. It's gaining traction. It gained traction rather in the mid-2010s and have increased in popularity ever since. One of the earliest and most famous AI influencers is Lil Michaela. Lil Michaela? I don't know. My browser's frozen here. It doesn't want to let me read anymore because it's like, you're too turned on, old man. Let me see if I can get this thing going here. Here we go.
Access denied.
Who launched her Instagram account in 2016, as well as harnessing, as well as harnessing an impressive following. The creator was booked to work with big brands and celebrities. Some have shared fears about the virtual social media stars, though. Not only does it raise questions about trust and authenticity, it may push real-life influencers out in the future. Some are also concerned about AI models promoting an unrealistic image to those who are scrolling through the pictures, too. It's hard enough comparing yourself to airbrush photos as it is. So, Travis, what do you think? Mila? Real?
Well,
real enough?
I'm just saying, she's definitely not real, whatever. So they say. But I mean, I am looking for a third wife. I mean,
here, let me see if I can pull up the picture a little bit for you here. So
yeah, don't you know there?
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of hard to see if it's AI or not. I mean, Timmy, we're probably going to have to look at this for at least a good 30 minutes to determine. I mean, like maybe a little pixely around. No, I mean, Tim, I'm going to need at least a half an hour.
Yeah, half an hour. Jeez.
I can't tell. I mean, my eyes are getting bad.
You got some staying power there, brother. Half an hour. Jeez, what do you got? Calluses on it? Why do you need half an hour?
Look, it was lonely in the field in the infantry.
I guess. I don't know. It's darn good for AI, but it's a little too fake, you know? I mean, her proportions are a little too Barbie dollish.
I mean, there's plastic surgery. There's a lot of people that constantly alter their body, right?
Right.
Who's to know what's real, what's not real? I mean, it all feels real at a certain point.
Right. So. Yeah, that's true. There are plenty of exotic dancers that have the same proportions, I guess. So.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not that I would know anything about that.
No. You're a family man.
Yes.
You have so much going on at home, you don't have time for those kind of exploits.
I am definitely a family man. I support all single mothers and
and college students.
Yes, and nursing students. Yes,
and nursing students.
Because they're all nursing students.
That's right. That's right. Let's turn the page, so to speak, and move on, shall we? We move on to a bit of a scary story here. We go to Cameroon, where it says here that Cameroon is in disbelief as a presumed dead man is resurrected in a mortuary. The shocking resurrection of Poopog Kevin. How would you like to be known as Poopog Kevin?
Yeah, well, I mean, he probably resurrected to beat the brakes off of his parents.
He had to get his revenge. You name me Poopog Kevin. Now you must die. Poopog Kevin in Douala, Cameroon, has sparked intense scrutiny and bewilderment among the population, especially considering the suspected medical negligence involved. Initially dismissed as a hoax, the unfolding events surrounding Kevin's return from the dead have left many questioning the circumstances and searching for answers. Louise, listen to this name, Louise Maryse Mbella, the head of the funeral home where Kevin's body was prepared for burial, recounted the eerie discovery to the press, encountering Kevin seemingly alive despite being embalmed and prepared for burial.
Whoa.
Mbella described the surreal scene, including Kevin's alleged whisperings and an enigmatic smile, which defied irrational explanation and sent shockwaves through the community. Kevin's mother, Catherine Coete, expressed disbelief and skepticism at her son's resurrection, struggling to reconcile the idea with the grim reality of his death. Her skepticism mirrored the I can't say the word.
Incredulous?
Incredulous. There's a liddy at the end.
Incredulity?
I'm having a tough time today. felt by many as the mystery deepened. Imbella disclosed that God, it's going to be one of those days, brother. Imbella disclosed that peculiar occurrences involving corpses were not entirely unheard of at that funeral home, though never to the extent witnessed with Kevin. Despite unsettling incidents in the past, Imbella's account offered little clarity on Kevin's ordeal. In the aftermath, questions lingered and speculation ran rampant. Was it a miraculous event, a sinister hoax, or something inexplicable? As investigations continued and conjecture swirled, the tale of Pupog Kevin's resurrection served as a reminder of the enigmatic mysteries of life and death. The circumstances surrounding Kevin's ordeal also raised broader questions about the definitions of death and the processes involved. Within the medical community, there is ongoing debate over what constitutes death, with death seen less as a single event and more as a process involving the cessation of multiple mechanisms. The complexity underscores the need for thorough investigations and a nuanced understanding of such events, rather than resorting to superficial beliefs or attributing them to witchcraft. Interesting. I don't think he was legally dead.
I mean, but if I thought I heard them say he was embalmed.
You're right. Yeah.
So if he was embalmed, that would allude that he doesn't have any blood and it has been replaced with formaldehyde.
Right.
How in the hell would he resurrect after that?
Right.
What?
Right.
I'm flabbergasted, Tim. I do not have an explanation for that. I mean, I've seen a lot of crazy stuff. I've dealt with a lot of crazy stuff. I have not met a zombie or a lich.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. That's a bizarre story.
Man,
about as bizarre as
undead. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a bizarre story. But I mean, you know, some of those news sources you have to kind of question as to whether how much truth there is and how much.
I don't question anything. It's on the internet. It's true.
Yeah. Well, okay. If you say so.
But I mean, like, we go back in history and like, what was it, like from what was it, like 1200s on to the 18s? They had like bells.
Yes.
At a burial site, because how many times did they bury somebody and they weren't actually dead? Right.
Right.
So, I mean, it's not a new thing in that regard, but the embalming part, that's the part that's tripping me out.
Yeah.
If you replaced all of the blood in the body with formaldehyde and this guy still like popped up and was like, yo, I'm here. I'm going to beat the brakes off my parents for naming me Poopy Pants or whatever.
Poopog. Yeah, Poopog Kevin. Yeah. Pardon me, but do you have any Poopog Kevin?
That boggles my mind. I think I want to take a trip and go find me a zombie. That's I think that's the trip to take.
Get yourself airline ticket to Cameroon. Just don't have sex on American Airlines. So.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we know I can't take American Airlines.
Right. You'll get
they're
banned.
all prudes.
Yeah, they're all prudes. Can't have any good sex on American Airlines, that's for sure. Just saying. That's alluding back to yesterday. Just saying. You know, can't do it on American Airlines, evidently. Well, we go from Cameroon to Nigeria. And in that, if you're ready for this, a Nigerian man kills his Ghanian friend, removes his throat to prepare soap for a money ritual. It gets complicated.
Okay.
Yeah. Here we go. It's complicated, but we'll get into this. Kehinde was among the suspects arrested across the state for various crimes paraded by the police at Osun Command's headquarters in Osogbo on Friday. we're getting a little dumb crime, stupid criminals in the middle of our supernatural news, but it also has to do with supernatural crimes. So there you go. Ghanian Kehinde, a Nigerian herbalist based in Oba-Oke, Osun State, has been arrested by the police for killing his friend Emmanuel Collins. Kehinde has now confessed that he committed the act in a bid to get human parts that would be used for money rituals.
Wow.
Kehinde was among the suspects arrested across the state for various crimes paraded by the police at Osun's command's headquarters in I believe it is Osogbo, on Friday. Giving the facts of the case, Osun Police Command spokesperson Yemisi Opalola.
Oh, yeah. I went to high school with them.
Yeah, I know you did. Over there at St. Paul Johnson, said it was reported at Oka Odo division of Osogbo. We may have listeners there, so that's it. We have listeners in Ghana, you know.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm trying to get
that's amazing.
Yeah. That a Ghanian Collins, age 35, was killed by a yet-to-be-identified individual. Police detectives swung into action and, through intelligence, led an investigation. One Kehinde Ganayu, I believe it is, intimate friend to the deceased, was arrested. He confessed to the commission of the heinous crime that stated that on July 9th of 2024 at about 9 p.m., he went to the deceased residence with a knife where he met him sleeping because he was sick, that he slaughtered the deceased with a kitchen knife and removed his throat. He added further that he dried the throat for 3 days before he took it to a bush called Igbo Imise Iwosi area located at Oba-Oke village, where he burnt it in a clay pot with some ritual materials and later mixed the burnt powder with soap for money ritual, or asole.
Dear listeners of Ghana, I don't believe in teaching just anybody witchcraft. I'm going to go out on a limb here real quick. Okay. Get yourself a candle. Okay. And get yourself something sharp that you can carve into said candle. And you find a nice little dark spot that nobody's going to bother you. And you're going to etch into that candle while you're thinking of people handing you money. Okay. And you're going to take that money and put it in your pocket, put it in your bank account, put it in wherever it is that it feels safe to you. And you're going to burn some incense that reminds you of money. Okay. Doesn't have to be a specific one. And you're going to get some oils that smell like money to you. Doesn't have to be a specific one. The candle doesn't have to be a specific one. But you just keep that thought in your mind about money coming to your hand, and you put it in your pocket. And you're going to carve into that candle, and it could be intricate symbols if you want, or it could just be a dollar bill, y'all. Doesn't matter. Carve into it while you're thinking about it. And then you're going to rub that oil on there. You're going to take the ash of the incense and rub that in there. You're going to light that candle and just walk away from it. You don't have to kill your friends and steal their throats. That's the one and only time I'm going to teach you guys some witchcraft without like any regard. Okay. Stop killing people. Stop. It's bad. Bad.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very
all right,
bad.
Tim. Sorry.
Very bad. No, you're good. You're good. So responding to, first of all, he confessed to having single-handedly carried out the operation. The investigation is still ongoing, and the suspect will be charged to court after the investigation accordingly, Opalola said. Responding to questions from journalists, Kehinde, who claimed to have been an herbalist, admitted killing the deceased, adding that he used the throat for money ritual soap. He said, "I'm an herbalist. The deceased was my friend. I could not tell what came over me. I met him sick and I attacked him and killed him for a money ritual. The devil pushed me to kill my friend for a money ritual. After killing him, I removed his throat and used it to prepare a soap for money ritual, which I had. I have done similar soap for 4 Yahoo boys before. Devil pushed me to do it.
Stop making soap for the devil. Carve into candles. You know, stay away from the devil's lettuce. Stay away from the devil's soap.
What happens when you drop the devil's soap? I'm just curious.
I'm sure they'll find out in prison.
Oh, wait. There we go.
Oh.
Also paraded was a 22-year-old Young Savior, who in Epitimodu, there we go, allegedly attacked a woman with a cutlass and robbed her of her handbag containing a phone, GTB ATM card, and N6000 after inflicting machete cuts on her. Dear God. Warning against acts of criminality, Opalola said all suspects would be charged in court upon the conclusion of an investigation into their various crimes, urging the residents to volunteer timely information that would prevent all crime. So there you go.
I'll be wilding out in Ghana there.
Yeah. Soap for money. Yeah.
You like the Florida.
You're like the Florida of Africa. Yeah. But they like the show. So, yeah. Yeah. Big fans.
That's awesome.
There. Yeah. So, keep listening.
Yes. Please keep listening.
Yeah, keep listening. Keep her locked into Darkness Radio. So, there you go. We move on to Delhi, India, where video footage shows an alleged ghost sitting on a bus. The clip shows an apparent spook that appeared on CCTV camera, but is invisible when viewed directly. According to the caption of the video, which was posted on Instagram, the footage was recorded by a bus conductor who was doing his routine checks of a bus, presumably outside of operating hours, when he noticed on the CCTV screen that someone was still on board. Puzzled, he turned his camera toward the seat on which the passenger was sitting, only to find that it was completely empty. There was definitely nobody left on the bus. Upon panning back to the CCTV screen, however, the passenger, a man wearing a white shirt, could still clearly be seen sitting alone on an otherwise empty bus. There is, however, of course, one major flaw with this. If the ghost only shows up when viewed through a camera, why is it not showing up through the bus conductor's camera? As things stand, it's not clear exactly where this footage originated, but it's certainly proven popular on Instagram, where it's racked up hundreds of thousands of views. But does the footage really show a ghost on the bus? The most likely explanation is that the CCTV screen is simply showing a recording from a previous point in time where there is actually someone sitting there. Perhaps the system is malfunctioning, or perhaps the only thing, or the whole thing, is a little more than a hoax. I tell you what, we can, again, post this in the description of the program, and you can check it out for yourself. I'll show Travis a picture, and the people who are watching on video, the picture of the man sitting there. Can you see him there?
It's a little difficult to see, but yeah, what you can make out very clearly is that the CCTV camera is a very poor quality camera.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Which means that it is most likely recording at a different resolution than his cell phone.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And so that might also explain why one is showing up on one device and not the other.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And it also looks like that is recording an IR where his cell phone might not be capturing IR footage.
True.
So take that, hoaxers.
Which sounds like hosers, but not really. Well, good news, Trav. If you got a little extra cash in your pocket and looking to buy another house, the house from the 1982 horror movie Poltergeist is up for sale.
No way.
Yeah, way.
That movie gave me nightmares for like 10 years of my existence.
Well, prepare to move in, my friend.
Oh, yes.
You're like, oh, yeah. The iconic house used in the horror classic has been occupied by its original owner since it was built in 1979. Directed by Tobe Hooper and written by Steven Spielberg, Poltergeist told the terrifying tale of a family who had been besieged by a malicious haunting that culminated in their youngest daughter being pulled through the portal to the other side, of course, from that TV. I don't think the TV comes with the house, but we can ask. Starring the late Heather O'Rourke, the film remains firmly entrenched in the minds of anyone who grew up watching it back in the 80s and is still considered a classic to this day. Now, for the first time since the movie was released, the house used in the exterior shots of the family home is up for sale for anyone who happens to have deep enough pockets. By the way, the home, Trav, is in Simi Valley, California. And if you happen to have $1.174 million, it's yours.
I only have 1.1. Dang.
Oh, maybe we can talk them down. Yeah, $1,174,999.
Oh, that's a the only house I think that I would go way out of my way to just financially cripple myself for the rest of my life is the Winchester Mansion.
Yeah.
That would be the only one. I still yet to this day have not been there.
I haven't either. I'm curious. I want to go.
You want to go?
Yeah, I do.
Let's bucket list this and do this because I really want to see it.
I do too.
Yeah. Okay. We're going. It's a date.
Okay.
We'll do it.
All right. Yeah, I definitely want to see.
It's very cutesy and very demure.
And it has an arcade so we could play video games. It says that it was picked for use in the movie because it looked just like any normal suburban home. This home that's for sale, the Poltergeist home. Steven liked that house because it was just the end of the road, he said. Production director Jim Spencer said back in 2015. It was a 2-story valley-type mock Tudor, and it just fit everything. The neighborhood was what we called Spielbergia, where E.T. and a couple of his other films were shot. He always wanted to be in normal residential areas. Prospective buyers needn't be too alarmed by the house's paranormal reputation. However, as according to the real estate company, it comes completely free of any resident spooks. So it is not haunted, folks, if you go to buy the house.
This house is clean.
It is literally clean. There's no haunting involved to the house from Poltergeist. So there's no bones popping up in the backyard or anything like that. There's nothing coming out of the swimming pool.
Tree limbs crashing through the kids.
Yeah, nothing like that. You're
weird
getting
clowns rocking themselves.
No, you're getting a clean house. So feel fortunate. It's a good house. Let's move on. We'll talk about an unsolvable mystery of a World War I soldier's identity, which has now been solved. After several decades, forensic science has finally determined the identity of an unknown soldier who died back in 1918. In the early hours of July 18th, 1918, the Franco-American, and we're not talking pasta here, folks, the Franco-American counteroffensive against German positions began at... Is it Ain Marne in northern France? Look at me. I'm French. I can't even tell you. The first
sounds about the rat to me.
Ain Marne. The first division of the American Expeditionary Force, or AEF, drove the German forces back, but not without significant losses. By the end of the assault, more than 1,000 U.S. soldiers were unaccounted for. The fate of their mortal remains unknown. But 85 years later, French archaeologists conducting salvage work ahead of a construction job on what would have been the center of the battlefield encountered the remains of 2 American soldiers. One of the 2 men, Private Francis Lupo, was easily identified because his name was embossed on his wallet, and he was laid to rest in Arlington National Cemetery with full military honors in 2006. But the other man proved more difficult. The remains of Private First Class Charles McAllister took 2 decades to be identified. But the young man will now finally be laid to rest with full military honors in his hometown of Seattle. The burial will take place on August 21st. Back in 2004, both soldiers' remains were taken to the U.S. military's Central Identification Laboratory of the Joint POW-MIA Accounting Command in Hawaii, where analysis of the evidence began. There is no UK equivalent of this U.S. lab. The UK Ministry of Defense operates a small team called the Joint Casualty and Compassionate Center, or JCCC, Commemorations Team, sometimes known as the War Detectives. Some ad hoc identification work is also carried out by UK universities. Discovering the identity of the as of yet unidentified remains of Charles McAllister, dubbed CIL 2004-101 I02, was deemed impossible at the time. The archaeologist, who's Jay Silverstein, was a forensic archaeologist at the CIL where the remains arrived, and he conducted an analysis of the associated evidence. He concluded that there was a high likelihood that further research could lead to an identification of IO2. The case was passed on to historians and other anthropologists with the organization, but no headway was made. But some 14 years later, as they approached the 100-year anniversary of the death of this soldier and the end of the First World War, Silverstein reopened the case. However, much had changed politically with the agency in charge of MIAs, and Silverstein was forced to work on it on his own time. Others volunteered to help, and Silverstein went through all of the lines of evidence that could be used to establish the man's identity. Several lines of evidence could be used to narrow down the possible casualties from the list of soldiers listed as missing in action from the Ain Marne battle. The date and location of his death, his possessions, and his biological characteristics. In an ideal world, there would be a database of the missing, and Silverstein could conduct a preliminary search based on his height, his dental pattern, his age, and his ethnicity. Unfortunately, these data only reside within the individual military records stored in the U.S. National Archives. This meant that Silverstein needed to make a determination on a short list of possible soldiers and request their records. To generate the short list, Silverstein first turned to the location and time of death. Silverstein knew when Francis Lupo had gone missing, and since they were buried in the same unmarked grave, it was an easy assumption that they had died at approximately the same time, which is July 21st of 1918, and about the same location. Using military maps of the campaign, Silverstein overlaid the remains recovery location on battle maps and correlated them with the movement of the advance of U.S. forces. This gave Silverstein an estimate of which regiments were in the vicinity, but this could only narrow the basic list to hundreds of MIAs. The main clues were two buttons on his uniform. One stated WA, and the other had a 2 and a D on it, split between two crossed rifles. Silverstein discovered that this meant IO2, which had been a member of the Washington State National Guard 2nd Regiment, Company D, before they were nationalized into the AEF. There was also a medal awarded for the 1916 campaign against Mexico. As Silverstein began to dig into the records of the Washington National Guard, he found that they had served on the Mexican border, and he had discovered a list of those from the 2nd Regiment listed as MIA from France. By cross-referencing the date range of losses with the losses recorded on the tablets of the missing at the American Battlefields Monument of the Ain Marne Cemetery with the Washington National Guard records, he was able to generate a short list of 4 men of Company D. It was then a matter of pulling together the military records of these 4 men from the National Personnel Records Center. Once the records were in band, biometrics or physical measurements from the body could be used to confirm his identity. Only one individual matched the stature estimate of 63 inches, and that was Charles McAllister. Furthermore, his dental chart included extracted first and second molars on the left and right sides of the jaw, with his wisdom teeth still intact, a rather unique pattern that matched McAllister. His estimated age also matched. Using this information, Silverstein conducted genealogical work and found a family member from his matriline in Montana. Beverly Dillon knew the story of her great uncle well, and she read me the last letter that he wrote as he shipped out to France from New York. Mitochondrial DNA is is useful in identification. This is genetic material separate from the nuclear DNA. It is only inherited from the mother's side and resides in the mitochondria, organelles inside our cells. This DNA is passed down from mothers to their children. Beverly's mitochondrial DNA matched McAllister. This gave Silverstein enough statistical data to show it was impossible for the remains to belong to anyone else. Finally, a family member from the male line provided nuclear Y chromosome DNA sample. This is genetic material passed down from fathers to sons. The identification of CIL 2004-101 I02 could no longer be denied. Charles McAllister could finally be laid to rest with military honors in his hometown of Seattle.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Rest easy, brother.
Mm-hmm.
The telling of all that, it's got me going through mixed emotions, right? As a combat veteran, combat infantryman myself, like, got some mixed emotions about it. On the one hand, it's like, congratulations, great detective work. You really nailed it and did this guy an amazing service, finally laying him to rest.
Yeah.
On the other hand, I'm like, how did they preserve all those damn records? But then when I was in Iraq, they had to give me like 28 different series of anthrax shots because nobody could keep their freaking medical records for 3 months.
Right. Yeah.
Like the anthrax series was 7 shots, right?
Right.
And like the first 3 months, we already had like 5 shots of anthrax. And then that unit left. And the guys that replaced them were like, oh, they took their records with them. So we're just starting over. And they did it to us 3 times in 13 months. You know? Like, what is going on here? In 1923, you could keep all these damn records. But in 2006, you're doing it with crayons. Like, what's going on?
Yeah. Yeah,
great story though. I'm glad he's being laid to rest.
It's maddening, I tell you. There's some things that you I mean, records were kept, I think, probably much better back then than they are now. But yeah, it's amazing. I mean, you look at census records even. I mean, my aunt's the genealogist in the family, and we're able to keep records of, you look at the different generations, and you can go back different generations. And geez, I mean, my grandmother's family, the Trombleys, you can go all the way back to ancient Rome. I mean, with the records that are kept. But you're right. You can't, modern day, you can't track anybody down if you tried. Yeah. With all the digital records we have now, you can't. I mean, you can go off the grid in a minute. It's easier now to be elusive as ever with as much record keeping as we have, and it's strange that you can do that.
Yeah, it's like my late grandmother. She had family diaries from the Walsh and the Garvey side of our family. They go all the way back to Ireland from the 1700s to when they came over, when it was the British and the Continentals going at a Revolutionary War, and they enlisted in the Continental Army. Like, we've had a long line of service members, unbreakable, all the way through since the Revolutionary War, right? And detailed diaries and records, right? And yet I go to the VA and my doctor's like, how long have you had a CPAP? Oh, about 10 years. We don't have any records of that. What is going on, Tim?
Right. Yeah. And well, part of that is laziness too on the care side. It just, it gets maddening. I know. Believe me, I went through that fight. Lawyer sidebar. I got my lawyer glasses on too. So lawyer sidebar. My mother, who asthmatic, diabetic, heart patient, heart failure, goes to the hospital with COVID, and they don't want to give her anything for it. and I end up fighting with 2 doctors. And I say, why aren't you going to treat her? Well, because, you know, the mucus in her lungs is clear. We're going to wait for something to happen. I said, if you wait for something to happen, she'll be dead. I said, why don't we get in front of this and treat her? Well, if we give her Paxlovid, then we have to take her off her blood thinner. I said, there's 2 other options. There's 2 other drugs you can give her. You can give her remdesivir, or you can give her the other one. I forget what the other one's called. Right? Right. Right. So they're like, but there's no proof that they work against the current strain of COVID. You know what? Bullshit. Just give her the goddamn medicine and let's go. Right?
Right.
Again.
Please tell me you took a steel chair against their head, Timmy.
Well, I'm dealing with them by phone. But yeah, but pretty much you got to be aggressive until they do what you want them to do, which is what I did. You know, Timmy's nice until you push Timmy too far, then Timmy becomes a bastard. That's
won't like Timmy when he's angry.
That's right. That's right. Bruce Banner becomes the Hulk. So basically I had to fight with doctors until they would treat my mom, who's an asthmatic, diabetic heart failure patient who's got a pacemaker. Why do you have to fight with a doctor to treat someone who's, you know, I don't get that.
Yeah. Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. The system is broken, Timmy.
Get in front of it.
The system is broken.
Yeah.
Burn it all down, Timmy.
Whereas my doctor, right? If there's something wrong with me, I've got good doctors. They get in front of it. They go, hey, you know what? You're immunocompromised. We're going to get in front of it. I got them trained. I don't know why I've got good doctors and some people don't have good doctors.
Yeah, that's why I stopped going to the VA. I go over and I just go see friends about money soap.
Money soap. Come here. I need your throat for a minute. Just a minute. Promise I'll give it back to you.
Don't worry about that machete.
Yeah. And we're all done. Just a couple more stories here. 2 more stories and we're done with supernatural news for today. And interesting, speaking of hearts and heartbeats, Loch Ness detectors pick up a regular heartbeat deep underwater while they're searching for the monster.
Nice.
Yeah. Boom, boom. I got to think a Loch Ness heartbeat. It's got to sound like a couple of rocks smashing together underwater.
I mean, if South Park taught me anything, it probably sounds like Tree Fitty.
Yeah. Tree Fitty. Right?
I'm going to need Tree Fitty. God damn it, I got no Tree Fitty.
What do you want? Tree Fitty. A hydrophone device, which detects noise underwater, recently picked up a strange sound that has experts questioning what could be lurking in the depths of Loch Ness. Underwater detectors have picked up irregular heartbeats deep under the waters of the world-renowned Loch Ness, creating a serious monster buzz. The rhythmic pulsing was detected on a hydrophone, a device that measures underwater sounds in all directions that was deployed some 100 feet below the Scottish lake's surface. While the source of the sound was unclear, experts are abuzz with excitement. At first, we believed that the hydrophone might be getting dragged along the bottom, but the boat's skipper confirmed the cable was at least 5 meters from the bottom. Alan McKenna from the research group Loch Ness Exploration said, "You can clearly hear a rhythmic pulse or heartbeat within the recording. We've no idea what was causing this sound, but it's very interesting." Alan visits Loch Ness every month, where he spends several hours on a boat called Deep Scan with skipper Ali Matheson. Reports What's the Jam on August 10th. That sounds like a good reporting source. What's the Jam? They were exploring an area in Urquhart Bay when they heard the noise. It was the same location where a famous underwater photo was taken in 1972 that alleged to show a flipper belonging to an extinct long-necked underwater reptile known as a plesiosaur. In January, holiday maker Jared Strong reported he spotted the legendary monster and was shocked it was gray instead of green. And last October, Dad of 4 Steve Valentine was convinced he spotted the hump of a Nessie's body in the back of its head. Mr. McKenna said he is intrigued and excited by the latest audio recording. He said, "We deployed the hydrophone, which was lowered down to 30 meters below the surface, close to where Robert Rhines's strobe camera was placed in 1972. At around 10:41 a.m., we started to pick up a strange sound. This is the first time hearing the pulse or heartbeat so clearly. I'm not suggesting a heartbeat. I'm merely using that as a description. It's a strange one indeed, but that's why my research is so interesting. We still can't accurately identify some sounds, and that's all part of the mystery. It's frustrating at times, but always leaves you wanting more." Mr. McKenna said, "Whatever is in Loch Ness, it certainly doesn't play by the rules. The loch has a staggering 263 billion cubic feet of water stretching over 23 miles long. It reaches depths of over 750 feet, making it deeper than the North Sea." Mr. McKenna added, "When it comes to exploring the depths of Loch Ness, our options are limited by its incredible depth and darkness. It's a place of mystery with dangers that are unpredictable and a legend of large unknown creature possibly lurking below. While we rely on sonar and surface observations, the visibility in Loch Ness is extremely poor, making these methods challenging, so sound is our next best option. A hydrophone is essentially an underwater microphone capable of detecting sounds hundreds of feet below the surface. Its sensitivity allows us to pick up sounds from miles away, including the faint hum of a boat traversing the loch. Our goal is to record and catalog as many underwater sounds as possible, identifying their sources and attempting to decipher what they may signify. The complex study aims to differentiate between natural sounds and those produced by human activities or man-made equipment. While identifying individual species by sound alone is a daunting task, we are particularly interested in the possibility of detecting an unknown creature should it exist. Loch Ness and the supposed Nessie monster lurking in its depths have become popular figures for monster hunters across the globe. According to the Loch Ness Center, there have been more than 1,153 official sightings of the monster to date. While much alleged evidence has been produced, it has been widely discredited by many marine biology experts and is largely considered to be a myth. So with that, Trav, I have one problem with the idea that it may be a heartbeat of a Loch Ness monster, and that's this. You go 30 meters down, you've got this hydrophone. You think you hear a heartbeat, but yet you don't hear any whooshing or anything moving around. You just hear the heartbeat of a Nessie. You mean to tell me you drop this thing in the water, and this thing isn't alarmed by anything you're dropping near it? It sleeps soundly throughout the entire thing and just allows you to drop something near it and hear its heartbeat. So Nessie's a sound sleeper.
I agree with you. Like, I mean, like maybe if it's in like a hibernation or something, right? Then maybe, right? But I think I'm willing to pull the BS card here. The reason I'm calling BS is they've had this lore forever, right? Like this has been a very long thing with Loch Ness, right? Mm-hmm. I remember in my entire 39 years of existing on this planet, this has been a thing. When were submarines created?
Oh God.
We're only going to go ahead and do topical things, and we're just going to drop microphones in there.
This is a giant body of water. We have submarines. I don't think this is classified. We have submarines in our Great Lakes and the Mississippi River. Mm-hmm. Why can't we put a submarine in Loch Ness and just go put this rumor to bed?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Why not?
Unless they're scared. Are they just scared? Are you scared?
No.
Are you scared, guy?
No.
I think he's scared. You know, I think he's scared. That's why he's just putting a microphone down there. Because he's too scared. He ain't no balls. No balls. You won't get in a submarine and go look for Nessie.
Well, the minute you put a submarine or a submersible in Loch Ness, there goes your tourism. Because if you don't find anything.
But what if they do?
Well, if they do, then you're open. You're wide open for tourism. Then you bring a whole bunch of people in.
Put your money where your mouth is, Scotland. I'm just saying, right? Go get yourself a submarine. Put this to bed. Show the world that Nessie's real, and you're going to be the #1 tourist hotspot on the planet. Jurassic Park will start in Scotland. All right, let's do this.
But I think they
start a GoFundMe.
I think they've got to have half a clue that maybe there's nothing there. I mean, the fact that they've done water samples, huge water samples of Loch Ness, and it's come back negative for anything that would be, anything like that.
What would they measure that against? I mean, like, do they have like Leoplorodon poop and like pH levels to go balance it off of?
No, they look for scales.
But how do we know it has scales?
Because they're guessing that this thing is close to a plesiosaur, and they have nothing that shows anything it's like a plesiosaur.
But what if it's a magical Leoplorodon? What if it's like the theories about like Sasquatch, where they're like multidimensional and they just like blink in and out of our existence? What if it's a magical Leoplorodon, right? What if it's like Charlie and the Unicorn?
Well, it's got to leave something behind, some sort of DNA or something behind, right? And that's what it's filtering out of these samples of the water. It's testing the DNA of everything that's in the water.
Some really good listener out there, start a GoFundMe for Scotland. Get the submarine funded. Let's put this one to bed. I'm for Team Nessie. I want it to exist. I want a magical Leoplorodon that's out there in that water. I want it to be real. Let's make it happen.
Well, we'll see. I mean, I think they should drop if not a submarine, a submersible, something that will prove it.
Yeah. I mean, let's do it like risk it like the Titanic one.
Yeah.
Just do it.
Yeah. I mean, let's prove it once and for all. Let's get it over with. Yeah. But I don't think they do, because then you have to prove tourism. And if they go down there and they don't find anything, then that's proof.
What if they find a really big tunnel down there too? What if they don't find Nessie, but there's like an exit hole that goes into like another ocean underneath the crust?
See, in a way, that's proof. So that opens up a whole can of worms that I think they can stake tourism on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's get that sub.
Yeah, I think at that point, then they've got a case. Then they can say, the tourism business will be alive and well for many, many years to come.
We got 2 bucket list things now, Tim. We got to go to Winchester Mansion, and we got to go get a sub funded for Scotland.
Boy, they're either going to love us or hate us in Scotland. One or the other. They're going to be like, leave our lockaloon. Get away, Yankee. All right, let's get to this last story, shall we? It's the ultimate story of revenge today. This is how we end the program here, Travis. We love our nature on the program, so we're going to end with a nature story today. Today's story is about a hungry python who decided he was going to have porcupine for dinner. Little did he know, the porcupine would get his revenge.
Sounds like a children's story.
It is. It's a little bit of a be careful what you wish for, because it might just come back up on you. So you ever wonder what might happen if a python ate a porcupine? Well, wonder no more. One of these giant snakes recently dined on a porcupine and didn't live to brag about it. We can see its journey to death. Here, actually, I'm going to show you a picture, one of the pictures of the bulge.
Ooh,
Yeah. Well,
that's a big boy too.
yeah, I'll show you. I'll show you more here in a second. So what happens when a python eats a porcupine? Here's a hint. It's not pretty. A hungry snake in South Africa just found out the hard way when it ate a porcupine for supper and died less than a week later. Yeah, that's a painful.
A week later.
That's a painful way
that's
to go.
Heartburn.
On June 14th, a cyclist riding along one of the mountain bike trails at Lake Eland Game Reserve in KwaZulu-Natal in South Africa spotted this engorged snake. I'm going to blow this picture up. Travis, tell me this doesn't look like a Pepto moment.
Oh, wow. Heartburn, nausea, indigestion, upset stomach, diarrhea.
Doesn't that look painful?
Yeah.
That looks like the snake's birthing another, like an armadillo.
Yeah, that's absurd.
No one knew at first what the snake had eaten, just that it had been given something fairly large. Park rangers suspected that the python feasted on a small warthog or a baby impala. Less than a week later, on Saturday, June 20th, park rangers found the python dead near the bike trail. When they cut it open, they found a 30-pound porcupine.
Holy cow.
Here's what they found. Check that out.
Oh, wild.
Let me see if I can.
Oh, man.
Check that out.
Eyes bigger than your stomach.
Yep.
Holy cow.
Sometimes you want to gorge yourself a little too much. That's pulling up to the trough at the country bucket.
Man.
30-pound porcupine. Sometimes the snake just can't say no. Just like us when we're at the old country buffet.
Look, I'm feeling a little attacked now.
Sometimes you just can't eat the whole large pizza, you know?
Yeah, are you trying to make me cry, Tim?
It still isn't clear if this python's spiky meal was actually responsible for the predator's death. Rangers found the snake underneath a rocky ledge. Not Rocky Stucci, but a rocky ledge. That's a little shout out to our buddy. Where it had apparently fallen. On impact, the quills inside its engorged belly may have pierced the python's digestive tract, which would have killed the animal.
Yeah.
This according to Jennifer Fuller, who's the general manager at the game reserve. Believe it or not, pythons and other snakes do sometimes eat porcupines. No, we're not talking about the delicious meatball cabbage roll. However, many snakes end up regretting their choice of snack because the porcupine's quills can pierce all the way through a hungry snake's body. It's generally the last meal they'll ever have. Here, Trav, is a look at what a porcupine's quills can do to the inside of a snake's belly.
Oh, ouch.
Doesn't that look painful?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a lot of nope for that nope rope.
Yep.
Jeez.
And that is the ultimate revenge.
Oh, man.
You may take me out, but I'm going to take you with me.
No kidding.
Yep.
That ought to be a tattoo. Or a Taylor Swift song.
Yeah, Taylor Swift song, right? Yeah.
You might be a snake, but I'm a porcupine.
I'm the porcupine to your snake. The next
You
Taylor.
tried to swallow me, but I stabbed you with my spine.
Oh, that's good. Hey, you know what? Taylor needs to give you a co-writing credit.
Hey, Travis has got some bars. I'm just saying.
Yes, you do, my friend. There you go. So tell people where they can find the show and clever songwriting lyrics like you just spit right there.
So again, every Thursday, we go live at 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. For those in the Midwest, like Tim and I, well, that would be 9 o'clock p.m. We do live broadcasts So whatever's happening, whatever you're seeing, it's happening right at that moment. You can find us on X. You can find us on Facebook, Rumble, Opslens, and I think I mentioned everything. But come enjoy. It is the most irreverent podcast in the world. We don't care about your feelings there. We just try to spit facts and truth from all of our different perspectives and show that you can all argue with each other, but yet still be friends at the end of the day. Thank you so much, Tim, for having me on again. And I love you big time, buddy.
Love you big time as well. So tomorrow night, be sure to join them live, 10 o'clock Eastern, 9 o'clock Central, right?
Correct.
All right, there you go. Also tomorrow on the big show, we've got Bryce Johnson from Expedition Bigfoot on the program. Bryce will be on to talk about the new season. We'll talk about the new season, the goals of the new season. We'll actually talk about why Ronnie LeBlanc is not on this year on Expedition Bigfoot. We addressed that briefly. We'll also talk about the end of last season and the transition that Bryce makes from being behind the scenes and being the tech guy and joining the field, because now Bryce is out in the field with Expedition Bigfoot, and how he feels about that, and some of the recent discoveries that he's made out in the field. So, and getting a little bit more in front of the camera. So, Bryce Johnson is our guest from Expedition Bigfoot tomorrow on the big program. So, looking forward to that interview, and I hope you all are too. So, there you go. That is tomorrow on Darkness Radio. So that'll do it for Supernatural News. For Travis Thorpe, I'm Tim Dennis. Thank you so much for joining us for another edition of Supernatural News right here on the best in paranormal podcasting. This is Darkness Radio.